I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to call the regular Lamar City Council meeting of June 7th to order. We'll start with the roll call.
Goodchild?
Yes.
Donlin?
Yes.
Wick?
Yes.
Sturgeon?
Here.
Bruns?
Yep. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, hearings. At the May 17, 2022 meeting, the council set this date and time to hear public comments on adding Chapter 161 vacant building permit to the Lamar's Code of Ordinances. Many property owners, the city of Lamar's and the state of Iowa have invested a lot of money into our downtown historic district. This ordinance would apply only to properties within the national and state recognized Lamar's downtown historic district. A map of the area has been attached. As is the case with many historic downtowns, buildings are multi-storied and constructed from property line to property line. A shared wall is common. Unless a building has been renovated, it is unlikely it conforms to building and fire safety standards. This ordinance would give some assurance to property owners that a vacant building meets minimum standards and is not a potential or immediate safety risk. So, one thing worth noting before I open the hearing up for comments and objections is that we did make one change since the last council meeting, and that is added to the exception of buildings. So we added that if a building is offered for lease, they too would be exempt from needing the vacancy permit. So if you're reading your the exceptions under 161.7, Part B says a building actively listed for sale or lease by an Iowa licensed real estate broker or salesperson is not in need of a vacancy permit. So we felt this would be a good change so that buildings that they're actively seeking tenants are exempt from the permit process. So now I'd open it up for any comments, objections, support, whatever the case may be.
John Meese, resident and the building owner here downtown. Also former building code officer for the city of Lamar's. But I don't know why you even need this thing because you already have something on the books. You have Chapter 145, Building Maintenance Standards and Dangerous and Dilapidated Structures. And I don't know if you've read through that. Any building, shed, fence, man-made structure that is dangerous to the public health because of its condition. Dangerous condition shall include but not be limited to one which may cause or aid in the spread of disease, which may cause injury or health to occupants of it or its neighbors. So, and then it goes on to explain all the things. So pretty much, if there's somebody down there not maintaining their building, and my understanding is that this is going on because there's a couple buildings downtown that haven't been maintained, and so all of a sudden you're going to cover all buildings with this code. And personally, I don't need more government codes just because there's a couple bad apples out there, and you're going to put it over the whole downtown stuff. Now, there might be other people that disagree with this, but I don't personally like it. So it's already on the code. It says the vacant property permit. So I think number one, it said unsecured or secured by means other than those used in the design of the building. What does that mean? That's in your code that you want to pass today. What's that mean?
Well, if you took a door out and you just nailed up some plywood to seal up the
Security
holes.
certified means other than used in the design of the building. So you're saying if you plywood up
If
something.
you had windows and you took the windows out and decided to just put plywood, if you took the front
Okay.
door out.
Hold it. Okay, so I just went through when they had the downtown facade grant, and I was involved in that, and cost probably 3 times what it would do if you did it yourself. But I went with it, and all my upstairs windows I was interested in replacing. They didn't want to touch it because the cost of that would have been too much. I was kind of interested in redoing the upstairs, but no, they didn't want that. So guess what I have over every window is plywood painted. And there are a number of buildings that were downtown that the upstairs wasn't being used, and so they went ahead and that was the solution. Now, it's pretty. It's not straight plywood, but it is plywood. So,
Yours looks
So-
better than just plain plywood.
yeah. They look nice. But also in that deal, there's something in this code about drainage, addressing drainage off the roof and la. And after they finished that project, I never had a leak in that building until they pulled off what wasn't considered historic, I guess, was the aluminum siding. And guess what? It rained and it leaked. And I had to call and complain, talk to the architect. Took a while to drag somebody back, but the builder, the contractor you had was Peach. He came back and I gave him a detail. He followed it and I didn't have any more issues. But and I believe it was taken care of. They just took care of it. But they didn't take care of the damage that was done on the inside wind sills or anything else like that, because the grant did include the interior of the building, only the facade. So a little irritated about that, but that's what happened. I'm obviously lived with it, so. So I'm not quite sure about that.
Well, I don't disagree with you, John, about, yes, we already have chapter 145.
Yep.
But I think this new chapter, working with 145, covers more stuff. I mean, 145.
It also allows access.
Yeah, I'm looking at 145, and that is saying, okay, that tells me that, boy, a building's already become dangerous. It's past a point into a dangerous condition.
So you mentioned, I talked to Jason earlier, and he mentioned that there was pigeons flying in and out of one of these structures. Well, pigeons are making, you know what pigeons are doing in there. It's a problem and health issue. And I would think you'd have the right to enter that building under a health deal.
Oh, we did, okay, so that pigeon issue with the 2 buildings downtown, that was taken care of through 145.
Through 140, okay, there you go. Okay, so then the next one, declare unfit for occupancy as determined by the building official or whether authorized representative. That's already in the code in 145. D, let's see, subject to housing, building, fire. Well, that's obvious because it's subject to the codes. And then you've got a deal here for 188 consecutive days, and that's listed throughout the code. I'd love to say that I was getting calls every day asking if I had room to rent or space to rent, but it's not the case in downtown buildings. I had a spot that opened up, I had 2 inquiries. I was able to rent it about 2 months later. I had put signs in the windows. According to this, you're not supposed to put any poster signs or anything in the windows. I advertised it myself, put my number up there to get a hold of me. This says you have to have a Iowa licensed realtor or what was the last thing you stated? You just stated your
Broker or salesperson.
broker or salesperson. Well, guess what? I'm not a broker or salesperson. I'm the building owner. I put a sign up. I was able to lease it. I was fortunate, but it's not like these spaces just go roll, like there's a bunch of people coming up knocking on the door. So I also called the chamber and talked to them, and they advertised it for me on the internet. That was great. I talked to 3 real estate agents, told them I had a spot open. I didn't get any calls back because there's not people looking for downtown buildings. In fact, I'm probably going to lose another renter I am gonna lose another renter. They're building a building out of 12th Street, and so I will have some space available. So again, I don't know how quickly I rent. I might have to do remodeling. I might have to suit the new tenant. There is an opportunity when they move out that I could possibly do something upstairs, because the door that actually upstairs is access to that office, and I could remodel, or maybe I can set up future to do something with the upstairs. But I don't know what's gonna happen for sure. You know.
John, what building?
So the 180 days, I don't know about that 180 days.
What? I didn't know which building you.
I own a building where Mark Crop Insurance and Edward E. Jones.
Okay.
And there used to be a counselor there, and now it's a photographic studio.
So John, are you worried about the inspection
Well,
process?
I just
mean,
really
what-
don't need somebody breathing down my back saying, this, or you got a fee here. What's the fee?
I don't know that we've set that
Oh,
yet.
well,
We
let's
haven't
pass
set
the
it.
code, that's a fee. And,
Well-
I mean, to me, the fee should be part of this discussion.
Well, our intention is to keep the buildings up to code,
Right.
which you served in that capacity at
Yep.
one time.
Yep.
How is that different than a new building permit that, we establish a fee for that?
That's correct. Do you have a building, it's different than it's a vacant building permit. You have to have a permit to have a vacant building.
Mhm.
That's not a permit to fix a building up.
Well, typically, the buildings that you see that are dilapidated,
That's
not up to code, are those that have been vacant for more than 6 months. And that's the worst thing for a building. The worst,
I agree.
the absolute worst thing.
I agree.
Okay? And this is made to work with that code that you're referencing, 145, to
And
allow us access to enforce those things.
Okay.
We can't tell if a building's leaking from the outside. You gotta be able to get in and see. Infestation, those things that you're talking about, by the time you see them outside, are pretty bad. We could nip a lot of things in the bud, so,
And you have the right to enter already,
just at any time.
if there's an issue.
How do we know there's an issue unless we've
How do you know
seen
that,
it?
how do we know there was pigeons in it, wherever
Yeah.
the pigeons were? Well, no, I'm asking, how did we?
Who wants to fly in
Those,
and out?
they fly from the
Fly
outside,
in
and
and
there's a
out.
hole about yay big. Yeah. But if it was bats, if it was.
I'm just
if it was
saying,
mice.
180 days, I don't know if that's enough. Have anybody tried to get a contractor lately to do anything? I don't know, I've tried numerous times to get contractors to do stuff, and I end up doing it myself.
Well, I will say this much, John, that one thing, and this is public's time to speak, and but I'm just gonna throw this in. I've also flagged that too, and I've changed that to a year.
I think
I
that
also
would be more
question,
appropriate.
I also question the legality of saying it has to be a licensed real estate broker, because in the state of Iowa, you can sell it on your own.
Yeah.
I've also questioned the sign issue. If I'm gonna sell a building, I can't put a sign in the front window? Wrong answer, not. So a lot of what you're bringing up, I've already got.
I appreciate that.
There's gonna be a couple that I bring up to Jane I like, but that's
Okay.
right.
Well, yeah, I would push it to a year at least.
I would too, and I think that's
If we
reasonable.
went ahead with this thing, but again, I don't think it's necessary, because I just think, what's the incentive of a building owner to sit there with a vacant building? You know?
We've got,
Okay, I know you have some issues. Certainly those people can be talked to, I
Yeah.
would think.
and I don't think you'll have any
It has been for
issues
years.
with your building.
What's that?
I don't think there'd be any issues with your building.
Oh, I don't think so either, but I don't like more government unnecessarily put on other people, because you're going after two people or one person, whatever
You
you're doing.
don't like more government, your name's
I
on the
don't
ballot
like more
today.
I'm not a big fan of adding more stuff to the books that you don't need in the first place, in my opinion. And then, so it talks about vacant buildings do not include any buildings being constructed or pursued to a valid building permit. Well, you don't require a building permit for any renovation work inside the four walls, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, so what's that? I guess I got a question for that part. General, let's see, there's that 180 days again. Utilities grass must be turned off by the appropriate providers. That's under vacant building maintenance standards. Guess what? If you're not paying your bill, they turn them off. When you turn things off, depending on what you're doing, in fact, I think a real estate agent will recommend that with the weather's getting cold, maybe you should leave that faucet dripping or something, just in case you don't freeze your pipes up. So, and if they aren't paying their bill, it's gonna get taken down. If they don't wanna pay the utility bill, it's gonna be taken down. So I don't understand that part of that code. You said required legal notices, first floor, ground level, windows, doors, opening shall be free of any posters. That was one we visited just about, so I won't bother you. The other thing was occasionally their campaign, the Republican convention, Democratic convention, whatever it is, they want to have a building downtown, and they'll find a vacant building, and guess what? They'll take it over for a couple months and do stuff there. Now, if you're not letting them put the posters up, that's a little weird.
I don't think that would be considered vacant if they're taking it, I mean,
Okay,
they're occupied.
okay. Yeah, that's a good point.
That's true.
Well, I brought that up when I first read this because John Coley used to let our bike club put up a poster about a ride we have coming
You
up
bet.
on a vacant building, and I think that should be allowed. I mean, it's,
Okay. And on an empty building, I don't see why that would be bad, or they do window paintings for homecomings and that type of thing, and they may ask the building owner, can I do that? It may be vacant. The building foundation code, we talked about that, that's already in the code. Decorative features, corbels, then you start to get into nitpicky stuff, I think, as far as telling the building owner what he can and can't do with his building. And if they're in a historic district already and they went through the facade program, there's already restrictions on what they're allowed to do, I believe. I remember signing a piece of paper that said I can only do certain things to my front of the building in order to participate in that. Then you had the 180 days again listed. Permit fee, that was my question, if you had any idea of what you're gonna be charging, because obviously, if you're gonna put it up there at a fee high enough where you're gonna try to get people to move off their butt if they aren't doing anything with two properties you think you have issues with, if this is motivation for this, you're gonna have to make it kind of steep, won't you? And then if you own a building and something happens, and you can't get it rented, and you've got it advertised, I just don't like the idea that I got a fee that can be set forth, and you do that every year, you'll be doing through that for administrative costs for the city.
What would you think, John? If it was $50, what would you think of $50?
Is that gonna get the job done that you want?
Well, I mean, no, probably not.
That's what I'm saying.
Hey,
Is
well-
$50 gonna cover the city?
Or if it was $1,000.
This whole group isn't gonna be here in 10 years. That's what I'm saying. When you put a code down, you're putting it down for a long time, and it isn't gonna live with, we may have an understanding, but it's a piece of paper down here and how the next guy's gonna interpret it. And that's why I don't like putting more down on the books, because the next guy might have a total different flavor on it. And,
John, I
I'm
look at
just not
this,
a big fan.
I look at this differently than you are with these two buildings. I look at it as a way for the city to get inside a building that's vacant, to make sure that the neighbors' buildings are protected and safe. That, and I don't think what we have on the books now allows us to do that.
In what way?
What way can we? I mean, if it's a blacked out window, locked building that's vacant, how can we get in there? You can't just walk in.
What reason do we have
And
to
the
go in?
purpose of going in is?
To make sure that everything is safe and sound. To protect the other properties.
Yeah.
And
things that we're
they
proposing.
don't have insurance. I thought the insurance people, usually, they come and inspect my property occasionally
There's a lot of people that don't have insurance.
on their building.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
I mean, there's a downtown building that sold for $7,000. I mean,
Yeah,
if they don't have a loan on it, there's nobody requiring them.
that's what it was sold for,
Insurance.
but is that an arm's length transaction? Is that what it's assessed at? Has somebody talked to that person and said,
I
hey?
think that's beyond the scope of what we're here for.
Yeah, yeah.
What?
That conversation.
I know, but I'm just saying, to me, there are other ways to remedy this situation than, if somebody called me and they said your building's dilapidated, we're concerned, we'd like to enter. You know, I think.
And they say
I
no,
don't
well,
think
there's
they're-
nothing we can do. If they say no to that question, there's
Okay.
nothing the city can do
The
right now.
city has also come up with money to do all kinds of projects, upstairs, downstairs. Have they tried to buy the building?
Absolutely.
Have they done a like-kind exchange for these people? Have they suggested some other options to get these people to let go of the property? Maybe they like owning a property, maybe it's not money they're interested in, maybe it's a building, piece of land, something else. I know a lot of farmers that aren't moving their property unless they get a, 2-to-1 exchange. These cities, LBIC, and those type of people are looking at property with the idea that they can swap. And so I think there's a lot of different ways to skin the cat, and I don't think this is the way to do it. 2 cents.
Thank you.
Anybody else to visit about these?
Richard Zimlo, interim director with the chamber, LBIC. And just wanted to point out, as we've discussed, this is for helping to get into the door in some of those stores that we cannot get a response for. You know, as you are aware, we've attempted to approach some of the business owners. Unfortunately, they're not as good in responding as you are, so we need some way to get our foot inside the door. So this type of vacant building ordinance makes a lot of sense, gives us that, and works in conjunction with the one that's on the books already. I will point out, since this was mentioned at the last council meeting that these were coming up, we have had several conversations already with people, business owners going, what can I do? So it has started that dialogue, it's opened up the door with some people already. Unfortunately, some of those that we haven't been able to get hold of for 2 years haven't called us yet, but we hope that maybe they will. Anyway, so from the chamber standpoint and Main Street standpoint, yeah, we definitely support going forward with that.